If you're here, it's probably because you want to add some cool dynamic lighting to your illustration. So let's learn how to draw backlit characters. The first thing to do when adding lighting, any kind of lighting, is to consider the scenario or environment that your character is in. This step might seem tedious, but having a well thought out scenario or environment can add a lot of depth to your illustration. For this demo, I will be drawing a character walking down an alleyway at night. At this point, I like to do a colour sketch of the background, which I can clean up later. After you have thought carefully about your scenario and environment, drawn and added the base colours of your character, the next step is to add the shadows. Before we continue any further, we need to understand shadows a bit better. The light area is usually the one that is in direct light and has no shadow. The mid-tones are the areas of transition between light and shadow, and, just as their name suggests, they have a middling value. Shadows are the dark areas that don't receive any direct light. Bounce light is the light that is reflected off of objects in the environment and creates areas of lighter colour in the shadows. Ambient light is the light that is passively in your environment. Because of this, it takes on the colour of your environment. We won't be going too much into colour theory here, but as a general rule, the colour of the ambient light in your environment is the colour of the shadows. For example, when outside, the colour of the direct light from the sun is yellowish. The ambient light is blue because of the blue colour of the sky, so the shadows should be bluish. Now that we've learned a bit of the theory, let's put it into practice. The first thing I always do is create a new multiply layer above either the colour layer or a folder containing all of the colours. If you do use a folder, set it to through mode to prevent any weird glitches. Use the clip to layer below function to ensure that no shadows go outside of the coloured area. Then I fill this layer entirely with my chosen shadow colour. When choosing a shadow colour, it is a good idea to choose something in the middle of the colour picker rather than something too dark or too light. I then get a soft brush and erase parts of the shadow where the light will hit. Make sure not to erase too much of the shadow, a subtle effect is fine. If you do erase too much, you can always go back in and add in some of the shadow again. Choose any soft brush you want. I'm just using Clip Studio Paint's default airbrush, and then if you hit C on your keyboard, it'll make it erase. I then go back over with another multiply layer and add in what are called cast shadows or occlusion shadows. I usually do these in a more cell shading style with a slightly different shadow colour. Always remember to hue shift. These shadows go in the places where light cannot reach, the folds of clothes, intersections of objects, and any other place that is being blocked from the light. For the colour of the light, think once again of your environment or scenario and choose accordingly. We start with the light much like we did with the shadow. First taking a soft brush and on an add glow layer, going over the bits that we erased in the previous step. Again, don't go overboard with this, it should not be the brightest colour on the canvas at the end of the illustration. If you are worried about it being too bright, then choose a colour that is duller or lower the opacity of your layer. You can also go into the shadows a bit for a different effect. Next, we take a bright colour such as white, or, depending on the environment, a different light colour. Try to stay within this range. Using this colour, create a new layer above the line art layer and add the rim lighting. This step can really be done at any point, but if you're going to add a background, don't forget to add lighting to the background as well. Some of the objects in the background might even be backlit too. You can go through the steps above to add lighting to the background, or you can merely add one shadow layer and one light layer, depending on the effect you want to achieve. Now that we're moving into the finishing stages, you need to do one very important step. You need to check your values. Your values are how light or how dark your colour appears. If you don't know how to check your values, one simple way to do this is to go Layer, New Correction Layer, Hue, Saturation, Luminosity, then bring the saturation slider all the way to the left. After clicking OK, this will create a new layer which will affect the layers beneath it. Bring it all the way to the top of the Layer tab. Now, you can check your values. The most important thing to check for are areas where two different things, such as clothes and skin, are very similar in value. You don't want this. Things should contrast each other nicely. After you have checked your values and made any necessary adjustments, this is the part where you add any personal finishing touches to your illustration. This can be things such as noise, gradients, overlay layers, chromatic aberration, dust, paper textures, etc. For my illustration, I added an overlay layer and some dust. Remember, this is a tutorial on how I like to go about backlit illustrations. There are no rules in art, so have fun and go make some cool illustrations. If you found this tutorial helpful in any way, likes are appreciated. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.